Hey guys, what's up? Nachshon here. I create videos about self-development, both in the mental aspect and in the physical aspect. Today I want to react to a video by Thomas Delaur. He talks about keto versus paleo. Now, I've done paleo for like 5 years and I've known many people who have done keto, and since then I've stopped doing paleo, I guess like a year and a half ago or so, because I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and it's not really just because of that. I don't think paleo is bad for Crohn's disease, but it's kind of restrictive in some way, as open as it is. There are still some problems with that, I feel like, and keto always seemed very, very extreme to me, but I wanted to see what he had to say. I remember watching one of his videos. I think he does keto for like a very long time, and he knows everything about it. So I really want to see what he has to say what's the differences between these two methods and how they compare. And I want to give my opinion because I've done paleo for a very long time. So yeah, let's start.
Ladies and gentlemen, in this corner we have paleo, and in this corner we have ketosis. And today we are determining which one is better. So let's have a clean fight, okay? Make sure there's no paws, no claws, all right? Let's get it on. You guys are way too amicable. So what is the difference between keto and paleo? Because they really parallel each other quite a bit. I wanted to do this video to truly help you understand what's for you, which one might be better. And I know a lot of you know that I do a lot of keto videos.
Yeah, so I think from my knowledge, keto is short for ketosis, which is a physical state where your body starts to create energy from fat and not from carbs, which is what it usually uses. And I think the keto community says that it's more efficient, that it's a better way to live. So people who do keto, they barely eat any carbs, they eat just a minimal amount. And people who do paleo do eat carbs, just not a lot. And I think it depends on like what type of paleo you do, because there are different ways of doing paleo. It's not just a strict, very formal way of doing it. There are many different like ways of doing it. So that's what I know about the differences between them. I'm sure there's more, so I'd love to see what he has to say.
But that doesn't mean that I'm totally hard set in ketosis. I want to make sure that you understand the key differences. Two of the most popular diets in the world right now, keto and paleo.
Yeah.
So what are the key differences first and foremost? Well, let's take a look at what each of the diets is.
Definitely popular.
So when we look at paleo, we're looking at what our ancestors would have eaten, okay? What we would have eaten 1,000, 2,000 years ago. So we're talking about limited grains, limited processed foods, no sugars, no artificial ingredients, things like that. It sounds pretty wholesome. And then we look at ketosis. Ketosis is a complete metabolic shift. Totally different ballgame. You're getting your body from utilizing glucose over to utilizing fats as a source of fuel. So ketosis, you're shifting your metabolism a whole different way. Paleo is a little bit more of just an eating style, more of a preference more than anything.
I don't know if that's completely true, because I've met plenty and I've followed many people who do paleo who barely eat carbs. They don't eat a lot, but it is important for them. I do really like about paleo, what I really like about it is that it makes people understand how processed food is not good for you, how gluten is not good for you, how some dairy products are not good for you. Depends on who you are and your sensitivities. That I really appreciate and like, but it also has its limits, and keto seems very, very restrictive to me. So yeah, let's see what he has to say.
But there's some commonalities between the two, and we really need to understand how this process works.
Right.
As far as similarities go, there have been collective studies from the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition, the Journal of Internal Medicine, the Journal of Endocrinology and Metabolism, and the New England Journal of Medicine that have all found that both keto and paleo result in lower triglyceride levels, lower blood pressure, lower blood sugar, and lower levels of insulin.
So in many nutrition and diets, nutrition styles and guides and diets, they throw at you like a lot of terms that you think are good. And you can't really tell, because unless you really dive into the information, it's never really clear what's really good for you. So triglyceride is less fat. Blood pressure, I guess it can be good. Lower blood sugar, I'm not sure if it's good. Even if he is saying that, I'm not really sure. To be honest, I think the best book or the best piece of information I've had about nutrition so far was a book by Kate Deering, and the book's name is How to Heal Your Metabolism. And there she explains on a much higher level what's good for you and what's not. She doesn't dive super deep as if you're a doctor or something, but she does explain it on a very good level. And one of the things that she says is that her whole point of view about nutrition is looking at your thyroid, and if your thyroid works properly, then you're healthy, and if not, then you're not really healthy. I'm obviously kind of simplifying it, but that's the base of it. What she's saying is that carbs and sugar is not really bad for you because it's the most available source of energy in your body, and it's the one that takes a lot less energy to make. So it puts less stress on your body. So it's good. All I'm saying here, I know I've just gone into like talking way too much. All I'm saying is that these stats don't really mean that it's good or bad. So if you hear people saying lower that and more of this and more of this, I think it's really important to understand that there's no one truth. It doesn't mean this is the right way to eat. It just means that they found out that eating within these diets, this is what you get. That's all it really tells you.
So as far as health is concerned, they're both great. They both really have a big benefit there. But where do they really start to differ? And where should we really be paying attention? So the big difference that we have to look at between paleo and keto is that paleo is still utilizing carbohydrates as its primary source of fuel.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's 50 grams, 100 grams, or 200 grams. Paleo is still using carbs. You're still using glucose uptake to actually fuel your muscles and fuel your mind. Whereas keto, you're utilizing beta hydroxybutyrate, a whole different ballgame. And like I said, even though some of the foods cross over, big difference in how the body is metabolizing fuel. There's a couple other differences that we want to pay attention to. The big one is dairy. Okay, when you look at paleo, paleo doesn't consume dairy. Why? Because dairy massively disrupts gut health.
Not true. This is not true. There are some people who do take dairy and they do paleo. It just depends what kind of dairy. So if there isn't a lot of lactose in the dairy that you're eating, then paleo is okay with it. For example, like having very fatty cheese is completely fine. And it's not really true that milk or that dairy or even lactose is bad for your digestive system. And I'm saying that as someone who has Crohn's and as someone who didn't drink milk or touched milk for like 5 years. So it's not really true that it's bad for you. It depends on the quality that you have. So I disagree with that. If you don't really understand what I'm saying and why I'm saying it, I really suggest that you read that book, the book about how to heal your metabolism. She goes into really deep explanations into why dairy isn't necessarily bad for you, and I really like it. So yeah, let's continue.
And there's a fair level of processing that goes into most dairy. So when you look at a paleo person, they're usually avoiding the dairy like the plague. They don't want to consume it.
Depends.
But then, unfortunately, when you look at keto, there's a massive consumption of dairy. Now, personally, I don't condone the heavy use of dairy. I'm not a fan of it.
So he just showed footage of himself buying almond milk, and that's not really a good alternative to milk because it's really, really processed. It's not that. A lot of people have this like stigma of like which food is bad and which is good. And as an overall approach, I think it's good. It's good to know that dairy isn't necessarily good for you, that processed food isn't good for you, that I think everyone can agree on, that gluten is bad for you. I think everyone can agree on that as well. But then there are a lot of these little things that are just not good. So if you don't want to drink dairy or processed dairy or some bad quality dairy, and instead you drink almond milk, you're not doing your body any favor. It's not better in any way. It's so processed, and it has a lot of artificial stuff, and it's even if it doesn't have the artificial stuff, eating nuts is not that healthy for you. All I'm saying is that there's a lot of gimmicks inside the food industry, which all of you obviously know, but it goes way beyond than what people think. And if you don't dive really deep, then you don't really know that. So a lot of people think that because they're drinking almond milk, they're healthy. And that usually isn't really true. So yeah.
that Western civilization and predominantly the American culture is really heavy on dairy, especially in keto because it's easy to lean on. You can go and you can have some heavy cream. You can have some half and half, even though again, I don't recommend it. Most people are going to do that because it's an easy crutch. It's an easy way to get through ketosis. Okay. The other thing we want to look at is artificial and processed sweeteners. Okay. Paleo doesn't consume those. Again, paleo's living close to the earth. Paleo's living thousands of years ago where we didn't have that stuff. Yep. It just flat out doesn't exist in a paleo mind. Although, I'll be honest, I've seen some paleo people that are still putting Splenda in their coffee and they still call themselves paleo.
Again, it depends. There are different ways of doing paleo. Some people really try to avoid carbs like the plague, not as much as keto, but they do avoid it, and dairy, and some people do. So there are different ways of doing paleo. It's not just one way of doing it.
Whereas keto, once again, suffice it to say, they still lean on that stuff. Okay, I see keto people all the time just loading up with stevia, loading up with Splenda. And when it comes to stevia, I include myself in that bunch. It's just easy, and even though it's natural, it's still processed to an extent and makes it not paleo. Now, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad.
Kind of does though. The second you have the word processed before your food type, it's kind of probably bad.
But those are some key differences there, especially when it comes down to the processed meats as well. So now the big question is, who is paleo for and who is keto for? If you're looking to lose weight, keto is good. There's no denying that. Keto is going to be the winner there. Now, again, it may not be the healthiest approach if you're not doing it right. Again, all my videos that I do on keto, I'm talking about doing it right and doing it in a sustainable way.
I don't know. He might have a better explanation, he just didn't go through it yet. But just because you don't eat a lot of carbs doesn't mean you'll lose weight, because you can get fat from eating protein as well, and fats. It's all about your calorie intake and how much you burn. Like, that really is what it's all about. And I think what many people don't talk about is how much stress keto puts on your body because you don't have carbs, which is the easiest way for the body to create energy. So I wouldn't say it's the healthiest, for sure, like he says. And even if you do it right, I'm not speaking as someone who did keto, so I don't want to brand it as a bad diet or something to do in your life. I'm sure there are ways to do it that may be good, maybe for a short time. I'm not really sure, but I wouldn't say, I agree with him that it's not very healthy even if you do it the right way. I don't think you have to do keto to lose weight. I don't know if it's better to lose weight. Carbs by itself obviously is easy, and it's what people eat the most all the time, and eating a lot of fat and protein is harder for you to eat usually, so people eat less of it, so that maybe for that reason you can lose weight better. I don't know, but I don't agree with that saying.
But regardless, you're gonna lose weight, even if you're doing the dairy thing, even if you're doing the artificial sweetener thing. It may not be the healthiest way, but you're gonna lose weight fast.
No, you won't. You're not going to lose weight just because you're doing keto. It's all about your calorie intake and outtake. Like, literally, that's it. Like, this is really not true.
You wouldn't paleo, because paleo, you are still utilizing those carbohydrates. Then what about cravings? If you're someone that has to fight cravings, also keto is going to be the winner there. If you're someone that needs to get off the sugar habit, keto is going to be for you. And it has to do with the fact that your body's going to start utilizing beta hydroxybutyrate, acetoacetate, and these other ketone bodies that dramatically curb your cravings and lower your insulin response. So therefore, you're just not going to crave them. Okay, but what if you're looking for a
but I don't know why is it so bad to crave things? Never mind, let's continue.
Flexible diet? What if you're not really focused on your body composition so much and you're more so focused on just having a well-rounded, wholesome life? Well, then paleo might be for you, simply because it's going to allow you to have a little bit more flexibility. It's going to allow you to get a wider spectrum of nutrients. And again, I'll say this again, on keto, you should be getting a wide spectrum of nutrients, but I know that most people on keto, because I talk to them day in and day out, are not, because they're not making the extra effort. Paleo, it's a lot easier just through your natural diet to get a wholesome, well-rounded approach. Okay, then we have to look at the athlete. Okay, this is a big one. If you're an athlete, you either want to be on one end of the spectrum or the other. The problem with paleo, and here's the big problem, is that the carbs that you are consuming are either the wrong kind of carb, meaning they're fructose, or you're sitting in that constant gray area of
why is it wrong?
Being so low in carbs that you're really not getting the full benefit of carbs and you're just running at the bottom of your tank.
That sounds like what keto does.
Whereas keto, you're at least eliminating the carbs altogether and shifting your metabolism to another energy source.
Oh, so he's saying it's not effective because when you do keto, your entire energy process is used to just using fats and not carbohydrates to produce energy. And that okay, so I can understand that. And when you do paleo and you barely eat carbs, then your body isn't used to like one method of producing energy. Okay, I can get that for sure. But why is fructose bad? I just don't, I really don't like this. I think a very good way of understanding whether or not your diet is right or wrong is whether or not it has gray areas. Like if doing 95% keto, is it still considered keto or not? So if your diet is based on, if you eat like by this much more, or if you make 5% less of your diet, meaning instead of eating 20 grams of carbs a day, you eat 24 per day, right? Are you not doing keto anymore? Yes, that's the answer. So if that's the case and you don't have any gray areas, it's probably not a very good diet to pursue, at least from my experience, because the truth in everything in life is never black and white. It's never you have to do this and be super strict and that's the only way to succeed, because life is way, way, way more gray than that in everything you touch in life. So I really don't like this super strict way of eating. And paleo, I think, is more flexible than keto because you can do a bit less and still be considered paleo. And it depends because there are different ways of doing paleo. So for that reason, I think I like paleo better, just because it's more well-rounded and it doesn't say, it's not so strict of saying fructose is bad. It's so not true that if something isn't processed, I don't think you can ever really label it as bad. Can it be bad at some point? For sure. If you eat too much of it, yes. If you eat too little of it, yes. But as a whole, I don't really agree with that. It's just bad. Fructose is bad, so you should just avoid it. That's bullshit.
So I've talked about in other videos how fructose, like coming from fruit, is metabolized totally different, and it goes to the body in a different way. It actually stores as body fat. It goes through de novo lipogenesis very, very easily. In fact, 5% of all the fructose that you consume immediately is stored as fat, believe it or not. Just sometimes you burn it off really fast. So that's the problem. And I have to be honest here. When you look at the CrossFit community, for the most part, which was big on paleo up until about a year ago, and I'm not opposing CrossFit here, but I'm stating the obvious. A lot of times in a CrossFit box, you find that the people just don't look very fit, even if they're extremely athletic. They just don't always look the part. It's kind of dumbfounding.
How is it dumbfounding? What if they're not interested in looking fit? What if they're looking to be functional and be able to do certain moves? What if they don't care about how they look? How is it bad? Like, it's completely fine. You don't have to look good. You don't have to be shredded. If your entire focus is on looking good, that means that your training isn't serving your body, it's serving your ego. Your body isn't supposed to be an aesthetic machine. It should be a machine that is able to move in a certain way. I don't agree with that.
A lot of it has to do with the fact that they're consuming high amounts of fat as if they're trying to get their bodies to utilize fats as a source of fuel, but then they're still having just enough carbohydrates to keep their body utilizing glucose. So all the extra fats they're consuming are just getting stored.
That's not true. You still burn fats. You still burn fats even if you don't do keto. It's just not true that only if you do keto then you can burn fats. You burn fats when you sleep, you burn fats when you have more muscles, when your muscles are bigger. You burn fats when you do cardio. It's just not true that you have to do keto. I just don't buy it.
They're also consuming a lot of fruit, which is not restoring glycogen, so it's not helping them recover from their workout at all. I've seen CrossFitters that are drinking massive smoothies after their workout, thinking that those carbs are gonna go right to their muscles. No, it's gonna go right to your waistline.
Okay, so I think I've seen videos of this guy and I really appreciate him, but I really don't agree with what he said so far. It doesn't go to your waistline if you eat fructose, man. Like, listen, I have a lot of things against what he said so far, and if you disagree with me, that's completely fine. What I do suggest is that you read that book. It's pretty short and it explains pretty well how nothing, almost nothing inside your diet is bad or good. And what he says now is very gimmicky inside the fitness and the nutrition world of saying this is bad, this is good, because we all want certainty. We all want things to be simple, to know that if we do this, this is good, and if we do that, this is bad. It just plays into us being lazy, and that's, I can completely understand that because I've done it almost my entire life, so I can really get that. But it's just not true, and you can't say things like that and be a professional. I don't know, it's just not true.
There's just a common misunderstanding among that crowd. But that really proves my point that if you're someone that's very, very active, paleo is not really for you. You're actually gonna have a better effect by just cutting the carbs out entirely and shifting your metabolic state. And most people don't understand that. But the other thing that we really wanna make sure that we're always paying attention to is the fact that if you're running an endurance race or you're doing any kind of long, more sustainable activity, is the body utilizes ketone bodies much better than it does carbohydrates. So at the end of the day, is paleo good for anybody? Well, yeah, it definitely is. Again, it's about being aware of what you're consuming in paleo and for someone that maybe isn't super, super active. But what about the combination? Because those of you that are watching might be wondering, well, can you do paleo and keto? The answer is yes, you can. Yep. In fact, paleo is so close to keto, all you have to do is eliminate the carbs out of the equation. You've got a really clean form of keto. Ketosis without the dairy, ketosis without the artificial sweeteners, ketosis without the processed meats. You're doing ketosis in a good, sustainable way where you're still getting the healthy fats from the coconut oil, you're still getting the healthy fats from the other kinds of seeds and nuts, and you're
not
still
healthy fats. Seeds and nuts do not have healthy fats.
Getting the right kind of proteins in a sustainable way, and you're not eating low quality junk. So all I encourage you to do in this case is think keto, but think keto 1,000 years ago. So there it is. That's the difference. Is there a winner? Honestly, not really. It's more about just educating yourself and knowing why you might look a certain way if you do one diet, why you might feel a certain way if you do another diet, and how it can all come together so that there's never a big dogfight at the end of the day.
Okay, so as you guys can see, I bought a gaming chair, so I'm looking like a pro gamer, but I'm not that much, like I'm playing a bit. But I appreciate him at the end saying that there isn't really one way of doing things, and he can't really say that there's a winner or a loser, because that's I don't know, when you want to go and actually learn something online, it's very easy if you don't really know anything about that topic to think and to accept other people's opinion if they look professional enough. And I appreciate the fact of him saying, okay, the truth isn't really just one thing, it's somewhere in between. What the diet you should choose isn't just one, I can't really tell you what's the winner and what's the loser. What I disagree with is many of the things that he said. The way you look is obviously affected by your diet, but it's not like if you're eating paleo, you're going to be fat, and if you're eating keto, you're going to be thin and looking good and being shredded. It's really not that. It goes so much deeper into that. You might not eat any carbs, but you eat just shitty food, so you feel weak all the time, and you eat processed food, so your body isn't really absorbing the nutrients really well, and it's under a lot of stress when it's digesting everything. And you might eat paleo, but really watch how much calories you intake and how much you outtake, and you can be super shredded. That's really not what determines if your diet is good or bad though. So if you look at your diet just by how you look, it's one indicator of whether or not this diet is good for you. The way you feel, how stable your emotional state is, how much energy you have, how well you sleep, how well you recover from workouts. These are things that say a lot more about your diet than whether or not you're shredded completely or not, because that's not so much affected by your diet, but by how much calories you intake and outtake. So yeah, there are many things that I disagree with, and if you want to dive a bit deeper, I really recommend reading this book. To be honest, I haven't even bought it. I just went on Audible and they have like a free trial, and I just tried that book, and then I didn't sign up for the rest of the trial, so you can do that as well. It's not sponsored in any way, it's really what I liked. Even her book though isn't completely right. It's not like she has everything, that she knows everything about the entire nutrition world and how to train, because she speaks about how you should train. So yeah, watch it with read it with a grain of salt, as you should with this video, I would say, because there are a lot of things that I really disagree with, but it was published on 2017, so maybe some things aren't very updated, and nowadays he says them differently. I'm not really sure. Anyway, tell me what you think about it. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with him? What have you guys tried keto? How did you feel? Did you try paleo, and how did you feel? I would really love to hear your experiences, and if you disagree with me, it's completely fine. I would love to have a conversation about it. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You know, I do a lot of these reactions, and you can see the next ones that I'm going to make in the future, so you won't miss any. Yeah, so anyway, have a good day, good luck in life and stuff, and peace.